Hello everyone, and this is my review for TNA Impact Wrestling on April 17th, 2015, and this was the tag team title tournament night where you had the 4 qualifying matches with 8 teams, and then they would go into the Ultimate X match later that night. Outside of the segments with Eric Young, Kurt Angle, also the BDC beatdown of Kurt Angle, then the subsequent semi-saving of Eric Young of Kurt Angle before the finishing blow, the knockout segment during the show as well. Honestly, the entire show wasn't that good this week. Like I said, I'll go off of what I liked. I liked the whole dynamic they did the entire show around Eric Young and Kurt Angle, and they're setting up a match for the next week. The whole segment with them talking talking at the beginning of the show was came off a lot better this week than it did from the week before. I like the aspect of what Kurt Angle did to try to bring out the try to semi bring out the old Eric Young, even though I think they're going to stick with this kind of deranged type of character with Eric Young for the very near future. But you saw a little bit of an aspect of maybe a change will come in the future. You saw that later in the show because you saw the BDC segment where they told Homicide to go ahead and take out Kurt Angle. You saw the beat down of Kurt Angle in there, and then of course having the Rising coming out and continuing on their little storyline with the BDC, and then the subsequent mini save from Eric Young stopping MVP from finishing off Kurt Angle. Now you can throw that on an aspect that's like, yeah, he wants to guarantee his world title shot the next week, so you can throw that aspect in there too. But they tried to pull it off as maybe a change in Eric Young here in the very near future, but I don't think that's the route they're going to go. I think the whole aspect they'll just reveal it the next week will be for he was just trying to protect his world title shot for that week. The knockout segment where they announced that pretty much outside of the world title match next week, every match on the show was going to be based around the knockouts. That segment came off pretty well. It was just basically them announcing the matches and what was going on. Each of them cutting a little bit of their own promo. A couple of them relatively good, the others not so much in that case. I liked Tara Terrell's promo on Awesome Kong. I like the aspect of Awesome Kong coming out there and them starting the brawl in that aspect. So overall, a relatively good segment. Outside of that, pretty much the entire the rest of the show was based around the tag team title tournament. And to be honest with you, those portions of the show were not all that good. You had a really good match with Austin Aries, Bobby Roode, and the Bromance. I thought that came off relatively well. Otherwise, the rest of them were kind of what you thought they were, and they weren't all that great to begin with. And it was also weird how they decided to depict Koya and James Storm in this case, especially when they had the storyline match from the week before. You almost felt like they would have tried to get them into that match, but they decided to put them up against the Hardys, and you knew the Hardys were going to go into the Ultimate X match to begin with, so they're definitely playing kind of a dissension amongst the Revolution at this point, like it might be broken up at some point in time in the very near future. You also saw that with the Bromans and their loss, where it seemed like there was going to be dissension and a breakup between that team. So you have this tag team title tournament, and it looks like you're about to lose 2 teams to go along with it. So a little bit weird, and the other teams were just kind of makeshift teams put together, like Bram and EC3. That's just a makeshift team right there. Though they teamed in the past, Bobby Roode and Austin Aries is kind of just a makeshift team. You also you had the BDC in there as well. At least they advanced onto into the finals, but you also had another makeshift team with Rockstar Spud and Mr. Anderson. Just a lot of makeshift teams for this tag team title tournament, and it looks like they're potentially breaking up a stable and and one of their, coexisting tag teams here in the very near future as well. So we'll see where they go with that aspect. I did not really enjoy these portions of the show. I also did not enjoy Ultimate X this week. The reason why I did not enjoy Ultimate X is the aspect of the match itself is supposed to be different from a ladder match. The whole aspect behind it is the whole climbing of the cables, doing high-flying maneuvers, and trying to get across the X to actually get to the tag team titles. But the way they did it this week was pretty much just a glorified ladder match. And and you can't blame the guys for using the ladder in those spots because, EC3's been working with an arm injury, so he technically can't do the cable aspect of everything. So that's one reason why they had to bring the ladder in there. Bobby Roode probably could scale the cables, but I liked how him and Austin Aries did the ingenuity where, like, Bobby Roode would be on the, trying to climb the crawl across the cables, but was also on Bobby Roode's shoulder, or not Bobby Roode, but Austin Aries' shoulders at the time. I like that little bit of ingenuity, but obviously Matt and Jeff are getting relatively older, so they might not necessarily be able to do that, so they had to use the ladder in that case. Like I said, the Ultimate X match is supposed to be completely different from a ladder match, and it didn't look any different from a ladder match this week. It was basically a glorified ladder match. It did not come off well. The main aspect of it is that you got the moment where Matt and Jeff finally have won the TNA World Tag Team titles, and I don't even really like where I don't really even necessarily. I'm trying to find the proper word for this, but I can't say necessarily don't like, but it just didn't come off as important as it probably could have been. And that was just because of how the match ended up getting depicted as a glorified ladder match instead of being completely different from a ladder match, which was why the Ultimate X was created to begin with, was to look different, be different, and it wasn't different this time. But overall, like I said, outside of those promo segments for the next week's show, I did not find this week's TNA Impact to be all that enjoyable. And that is a bit unfortunate because they've always, put more emphasis on their tag team division than many of the other companies. And it's sad that, this week's, with the emphasis being around the tag team titles, that it didn't come off all that good. That is a little bit of a sad aspect of it. We'll see where they go and how they will depict the Hardys as champions, and then will they still have the titles when the Wolves come back. We'll see how they can play storylines into that. And I'm looking somewhat forward to next week where they are going to do a completely different type of show. We'll see how it comes off with it being mostly around the knockouts. They've always done really well. The knockouts have always done really well in their segments. Not every single match or every single segment's good, but then again, you can say that about any of the other guys in there as well. They've done a relatively good job building up their knockouts in their women's division in general. So we'll see how that comes off next week, and then of course you'll also have the Eric Young Kurt Angle match in there. We'll see how they play that storyline off throughout the night. So it seems like they could have a very interesting show for the people to watch next week, so we'll see what ends up happening. And that's my review this week for TNA Impact Wrestling, and I thank you guys for watching.